Marketed towards the young and teenage boys, Shonen Jump has been publishing weekly manga since 1968, which is 58 years ago from today. And now, due to massive invasion of anime and manga throughout the world, these shonen manga has been more and more popular each and every day. Due to the nature of the story made for young boys to enjoy, these series are fun and enjoyed by everyone throughout the world. Due to lack of proper physical manga availability, I was quite far from the regular releases of the weekly manga. But now, with the weekly Shonen app, which is official launched by Shueisha, I have been able to enjoy the regular release of the shonen side of manga. So, I decided to read in all the currently serializing manga and give you a brief review on what is going through Shonen Jump, but I came to notice that some manga like Earthchild had literally 2-3 chapters only, and I couldn't give any solid opinions on them. Similarly, the more famous manga like One Piece and Jujutsu Kaisen are also not included in this video cause I have already read them, and also I only want to take a look at unknown state of Shonen Jump. So, with that said, put on your seat belt as I'm going to give my thoughts on each shonen series that are currently being serialized. First up we have Kentaro Yabuki's Ayakashi Triangle. Kentaro Yabuki, the creator of one of my favorite shonen series, has released a new series in Shonen Jump. This couldn't be a better way to get started. With Yabuki-sensei's fantastic art and that amazing sense of ichi, this series left a lasting effect on me. As Yabuki-sensei usually does, he talks about this incredibly amazing tale of what goes through a person's head and makes you want to go further into the series. Matsuri Kazumaki and Suzu Kanade are childhood friends who share the ability to see Ayakashi. While Matsuri is descendant of a line of exorcist ninja who protect people from evil Ayakashi, Suzu is an Ayakashi medium whose power draws many Ayakashi to her. However, Matsuri learns Suzu's growing power will inevitably bring Ayakashi to try to devour her to get more power, so he decides to protect Suzu by exorcising the evil Ayakashi that approach her. Years later, on the day before the pair were to start high school, Suzu is attacked by Shirogane, the king of Ayakashi, but is saved by Matsuri. Unable to beat him, Matsuri seals away most of his powers into a scroll, but before he does, Shirogane puts a curse on Matsuri that turns him into a girl, hoping the transformation will ruin any chance he and Suzu have of becoming a couple in the future. As Suzu helps Matsuri to adjust to his new life as a girl, Shirogane plots to regain his power and devour Suzu. This series is a terrific romantic show with a lot of action and an ichi flavor to it. When I first started reading the manga, I was frustrated with the pace, but as I continued reading it, I was pleased I did. It talks with subjects such as relationships, which are still rarely discussed, and delves deeply into this subject. The only complaint I have about this manga is the ichi aspect, which I despise saying. I was already liking the story, but the unexpected fan service was too much for me. Aside from that, the character, art, and plot are all excellent and highly recommended. Next up, Kaku Yuji's Ayashimon. What a surprise from Kaku Yuji. We already knew what he was capable of from his past work on Jigokuraku or Hell's Paradise, and he proves it. This manga drew my attention from the first chapter and maintained it till the last, which was quite intriguing. It typically takes me 1 or 2 chapters to thoroughly immerse myself in a manga, which is why most of them have a longer first chapter, but I was entirely involved in this comic as soon as I started reading it. Let's get into the story. Maruo Kaido is an unusually strong boy and an avid manga fan who dreams to be a manga hero. Repeating the special training that appears in manga that he has read since early age, Maruo became able to break rocks at the age of 7. One day, he meets Urara, an Oni Ayashimon, a kind of yokai able to shapeshift into humans, chased by an Ayashimon Yakuza gang. After Maruo easily defeats the gang, Urara, impressed by his strength and by the fact that he is a simple human and not an Ayashimon, recruits him as the first member of her Yakuza group. Maruo, hesitant at first, accepts her offer, realizing that he can experience life as a manga protagonist following the path of a Yakuza. As a huge admirer of Kaku Yuji sensei and his efforts on Jigokuraku, I was really thrilled to read this manga, and it did not disappoint. With Yuji sensei's great art and a hint of horror, as seen in his prior works, this manga was a lot of fun to read. The plot moved along nicely, leaving some riddles for the readers to ponder, and the characters were well thought out and implemented. The flow of the plot is fantastic and gets you engrossed in it, and if Yuji Sensei continues with this effort, he will be on his way to creating a new shonen classic. Overall, it's a really entertaining read, and I may appear to be overhyping and praising the shit out of it, but trust me, it's really fantastic, and you should read it. Koji Miura's Blue Box. Another fantastic series that I had no clue existed before reading it. I had no clue what to anticipate from the manga because I was new to Koji Miura sensei's work, but the emotion it gave me was a genuinely unique one that I had never had when reading a manga before. While reading this manga, the lovely and wholesome plot with extremely excellent graphics touched my heart. The series focuses on Taiki Inamata, a student at Imei Junior and Senior High who is a member of the boys' badminton team. Every morning, he trains alongside his upper-class woman and fellow crush Chinatsu Kano, who is on the girls' basketball team. However, Chinatsu moves in with Taiki's family when her parents leave Japan to work abroad. With Chinatsu now living with him, Taiki aims to slowly develop his relationship with her as they both strive to make it to the national championship with their respective teams. This story has a particular place in my heart since the feeling it provided me was very distinct, which I appreciated. The romance, the cuteness, the pain, the happiness, everything experienced by the characters hits you straight in the face, which may be the reason for Koji Miura sensei's excellent tale writing. The way our primary character develops, as well as the way the secondary characters interact, is incredible. It's a lot of fun to read because it blends the sports and romance genres. I was surprised to find this manga so intriguing, and I've been looking forward to the next chapter every week. So, if you want healthy, sweet romance stories, be sure to check out this manga. Gen Oasuka's Doron Dororon. And here we have a typical shonen series, in which our main character has a specific aim in his life but is unfit for the position, but obtains a superpower and achieves his ambitions. Just a typical shonen tale with decent characters and a nice story. This was the first series that I felt like I'd watched before, but with the characters and powers switched. This might be due to the fact that I've read so many shonen-style series that the plot appears to be predictable. Humans are under threat from mysterious monsters called Mononoke. Dora Sasaki is unbeatable in a fight, and in order to keep a promise to his deceased mother, he aspires to be an anti-Mononoke samurai. However, everything changes when he meets a kind-hearted Mononoke named Kusanagi. Welcome to this dark fantasy story of humans and monsters. It appears to be and is a typical shonen narrative with excellent story and graphics. Gen Oasuka sensei has done an outstanding job of preserving this narrative. Because of the predictability of the tale, I assumed that it couldn't provide anything unique to me, but if the story progresses at a good speed, I can see this manga gaining a lot of notoriety and reputation. The characters are well developed, and even though we are only in the 12th chapter of the novel, we have witnessed significant growth in our main character's friendship and personality. We also have a regular shonen female lead that is capable of fighting and stands by our main lead. The conversations and world building are also done effectively, and with the most recent chapter ending on a cliffhanger, the author has a lot of room to create this world right. Overall, it's your typical shonen anime, which is clearly really excellent and has a lot of promise, and if you like these kinds of stories, this manga could be for you. High School Family, Kokosei Kazoku by Ryo Nakama. This manga was a wild card. I knew it was a gag manga, but I had no idea what to anticipate from it. However, when I began reading, I discovered the tale or idea to be amusing and a wonderful fit for a humor manga. This manga made me giggle in unexpected ways. The plot begins with our main character, Kotaro Iatani, who has recently graduated from middle school and has been admitted into a high school. As he prepares for his first day of school, he discovers that his father, sister, cat, and mother have all taken the high school selection tests and are now all attending high school with him. This narrative is mostly on the Iatani family, who attend high school together. Because it's a gag manga with no clear plot, there's not much to say, but I can tell you that almost every chapter is a joyful and ludicrous compilation of character interactions. Ryo Nakama sensei's art, on the other hand, matches wonderfully to the ridiculousness of the manga and occasionally feels a bit juvenile, but because it's a humor manga, it suits the spirit perfectly. Here we have the titular family, a middle-aged salaryman, a housewife, a little daughter, a cat, and our protagonist, as well as students, the clichés you know from most of school-based anime and manga. The family's chemistry is fantastic, making it credible even in this weird situation, and their quirky interactions with the rest of the ensemble are a joy to see. They are unquestionably excellent. Overall, this is quite a solid gag manga, not in the top but not in the bottom too, and if you like your normal gag comedy manga then you might enjoy this series. Hajime Komodo's Mashle. This manga was extremely intriguing, being a shonen-style narrative like Doron Dororon, but it was quite a surprise reading this manga as it had a little different mood to it. The main character's stupidity and overpowering make this manga a lot of fun to read. This manga reminded me of One Punch Man, Mob Psycho 100, and Aoyama-kun all rolled into one. Set in a magic world, Mash Burndead is a young man who was born without magic. In order to live a peaceful life with his adoptive grandfather, he needs to become a divine visionary, a title given to exceptional students from the Easton Magic Academy. Mash goes to the magic school, despite not having any magic, and must survive by only relying on his muscles. The plot hits you in a unique way. If you enjoy parody manga like One Punch Man, this could be exactly up your alley. The art isn't the finest, but it's much cleaner, and it grows on you as you read the later chapters. The character development is incredibly nicely done. Each character has a motivation and is well thought out. The tale may appear to be moving slowly in the first few chapters, but it improves as the novel progresses. However, I am concerned that the main character will become unable to develop owing to a lack of adequate competition, as well as our main character's sincere sentiments. If the author is able to resolve this issue without jeopardizing the plot and flow of the narrative, it has the potential to become one of the greats in terms of One Punch Guy and Mum Crazy 100. Overall, it's a fantastic manga with fantastic characters and a fantastic tale that you should try. Shuhei Miyazaki's Me and Roboko. Roboko is a delightfully surprising series. At first glance, the visual style of the main characters, especially Roboko, perplexed me and made many others, including myself, hesitant to read it. But after caving in and giving this series a chance, I must say that it was rather entertaining. There are no Ichi, One Punch Man style fighting, romance, or other similar aspects in this manga. Just focusing on jokes and parodies involving intriguing personalities. Set in a future where every household owns maid robots known as order maids, average grade schooler, Bondo Taira, dreams of having his very own robot because of his friends, Gachi Gorilla and Matsuo Kanio always brag about Kanio's order maid, Miko. With some convincing, Bondo manages to make his mom agree and get them one, but what he received is an unable to compute maid named Roboko, the most powerful clumsy maid ever created. With Roboko's arrival, Bondo's life starts to get a whole lot weirder. Roboko has some small gags and references to other anime/manga/video games peppered throughout each chapter, but typically the whole chapter is just a setup for one big punchline, and I find it is often delivered well. The relationship Bondo shares with his friends, as well as Gachi's face itself, is always a hoot. It's also amusing to see Roboko frequently abusing Gachi, especially since he's just a small, ugly child while she's a big, strong adult with DBZ tier strength. Roboko, with her strange behaviors and amusing language, is the show's star. I was also taken aback by the two bully characters. They appear to be your typical school bullies at first, but they wind up being the kindest characters in the narrative, which is fairly amusing. So far, my favorite chapters are the Promised Neverland parody and, in particular, the two chapters that mock Shonen Jump. Overall, this manga is a lot of fun and a great example of why we shouldn't judge a book by its cover. Though the art style is a little off-putting and throws you off at the starting of the story, the fact that it is a gag manga perfectly suits the spirit of the story later, and I highly suggest it to everyone who like gag and comedy-focused manga. Maypolo 3 Goes P. This manga is now quite intriguing. It's interesting since the tale is incredibly original, and the manga's visual style is really dominant and suited to the concept. When I originally started working on this manga, I thought the title was a joke. 6P, what is this? I asked myself. But after reading the narrative and learning about the title's origins and significance, my perspective shifted. Let's start with the story. Lucky Otogami is one of 7 children who all love the piano. However, after a divorce, Lucky was left with only his mother while his father took his siblings. They became the prodigies known as the Otogami sextuplet pianists, while Lucky was forced to live an abusive life in a relative's home after his mother fell into a coma. When his mother wakes up, he believes everything is right with the world, until he discovers she only has 1 year to live. Lucky decides to become a professional pianist so his mother can see him perform with his siblings. The tale is quite poignant, and the fact that you get to share the adventure of a youngster embarrassed by his father and reach the summit is a very engaging plot. Similarly, the art is really engaging. Many people may think the art is terrible or poorly done, but I believe it is perfectly suited to the musical adaptation of this manga. Furthermore, the idea that the protagonist has a specific purpose is a terrific take for the tale and raises it to the next level. I'd also want to mention that the mother's character and the relationship between the mother and her kid warms your heart and keeps you engrossed in the narrative. Overall, this is a fantastic read that engages both your heart and your head. If adapted well, I can see this manga being made into a really fantastic anime, and if you enjoy your shonen, emotional, and melodic manga, this may be a nice read for you as well. Daiki Ihara's Protect Me, Shugamaru. Once again, a gag manga with a semblance of a narrative. I wasn't expecting a gag comic from Shonen Jump to begin with, which might explain why I didn't appreciate this book. It had defects and characteristics, but the weaknesses propelled it forward. Shugamaru, the main character of our narrative, comes from the Teko clan, which has been defending the House of Ohos for generations. And he is tasked with protecting Sanagi Oho, the last heir of the Oho family. This narrative depicts Shugamaru's defense of Sanagi against the mystery assassin known as Skull. This story is very good. A bodyguard who is 10 years old and has been trained since birth guards a girl in a fairly amusing way, and that's all there is to it. In general, the characters lack personality, and the art appears to be unsuitable for the comic, in my view. To be blunt, it has numerous issues and is extremely uninteresting in compared to other gag manga now serializing. But it may just be me, and you could appreciate this series, so check it out. Yuto Suzuki's Sakamoto Days. Well, this was the manga that I thoroughly appreciated and adored from the start. Everything from the beginning to the characters to the art was pretty beautifully done. I was immediately drawn to our main character due of his character design, and he did not disappoint. Taro Sakamoto used to be an unrivaled hitman, earning legendary status in the underworld. But one day, the unthinkable happened. Sakamoto fell in love. He started dating, retired, got married, and had a kid, growing overweight as a result. Though now working as a humble convenience store owner, the world of hitmen still follows him. Sakamoto, along with Shin, an esper and employee at his small store, will protect his humble life and family, or die trying. What can I say about this story? It has to be my favorite manga in the current lineup, and I am greatly looking forward to it. The imagery is really captivating. Suzuki-sensei has done an outstanding job of bringing the tale and the art to life. The charters are really well thought out, and the funny timing will definitely strike you. If you prefer action and humor in one show, you will love this manga. The characters each have their own idiosyncrasies, which is typical for fight comics, but unlike other series that fail because their characters are too weird and zany to fit in, the author manages to make the unusual people that appear seem human, despite their strange habits. So far, the plot has begun to evolve into a wider arc, which is a far cry from the gag/battle manga that it looked to be in the initial few chapters. Every time a new character is introduced, they are easily integrated into the narrative, which is now progressing toward a larger goal. This is a must-read with really high potential of being a great anime, and I highly recommend it. The Elusive Samurai by Yuyuzi Matsui. This manga, written by the same person who wrote Assassination Classroom, is, in my view, quite ordinary. I didn't have any issues with the plot when I first started reading it because it had really nice characters and a really good story. 8-year-old Takeyuki Hojo, the next successor of the Kamakura shogunate, is a young boy lacking talent in everything besides hide and seek. One day, his carefree life is abruptly turned upside down when Takuji Ashikaga brutally seizes power from the Kamakuras, ending their reign. Rescued by a self-proclaimed prophetic priest, Takeyuki manages to escape with his life. Now he must evade those trying to kill him while recruiting comrades who can help him restore the Kamakura shogunate to its former glory. Set during the Nanboku-cho period of Japanese history, Nige Juzu no Wakajimi is a tale of redemption, documenting the life of the forgotten hero that altered Japan's destiny by running away. The early chapters are stiff and lack character development, but the tale and characters improve beyond the first few chapters. This series appears to be poised, or intended, to go for a long time, so it's expected that the early chapters will be less intriguing than what has to come later. The fact that the series is set in 1333 during the Kenmu Restoration is intriguing. Because so many historical series are based in the Edo and Meiji eras, it's interesting to read one set earlier in history. It has pretty fantastic art for a weekly comic, but considering we're talking about Assassination Classroom's creator, I can already picture even better panels done by him in the not too distant future. The first few chapters are really fast-paced and confused. The tempo drops to a reasonable or acceptable level after the first few chapters. Furthermore, I'm not sure if it's the translation or the writing in general, but the conversation is occasionally stiff and clunky. There is some cringy narration and fourth wall breaching here and there. Overall, the series is improving on all fronts as it progresses, and the art is still fantastic. I'm looking forward to seeing how this series progresses. It has the potential to be a thrilling and one-of-a-kind historical epic. Yoshifumi Tozuka's Undead Unluck. Because of its distinctiveness, I believe this series has the potential to set a new standard for Shonen Jump. The story is not overly basic, but it is also not very intricate, making it a delightful read. Fuuko Izumo is a young girl who has been living in seclusion for 10 years since an incident that left more than 200 people dead, including her parents, when she was 8 years old. Following the completion of her favorite long-running girls manga series, Fuyuko decides to commit suicide. She is tormented by the fact that she cannot be touched by anyone due to her unluck ability, which brings bad luck to anyone she comes into contact with in the flesh. She meets an undead man who has amazing regenerative abilities and who desires to die the best death possible, disliking his immortal life. For the sake of convenience, Fuyuko names him Andy because he is undead, and they begin to work together. However, they soon see themselves chased by the Union, a mysterious organization. Eventually, an assassin of the Union called Shen tells them that the organization has a special team consisting of 10 people with special abilities, and that by joining the team, they will no longer be hunted, so the two decide to join in order to attain Andy's wish for the best death, and face numerous enemies and the mysteries of the world. The missions of the team are proposed by a book called Apocalypse, which has supernatural powers. There are people with the ability to negate the rules of the world called negators. The Union is an organization of negators specialized in the hunting of or unidentified mysterious animals, creatures created by God in order to complete the quests of Apocalypse, and they also must defeat a group of negators that opposes the Union called Under. This manga kept me reading till I reached the final chapter, thanks to its really great world building and awesome tale. The art is extremely nice, not spectacular, but good enough to complement Yoshifumi Tozuka sensei's lovely tale telling. This manga has a lot of potential to improve the plot, thus I see it rising to the top. I wasn't sure whether I'd remain with because I despise Ichi. But I was pleasantly pleased. After 90 plus chapters, I can confidently state that Undead Unluck is one of the finest Jump comics I've read in a long time. If you've only read the first few chapters, don't give up on this manga. While the first few chapters are bad, the great bulk of the Ichi foolishness is rapidly dropped by After about 8 to 10 chapters, you get the beginning of a manga with an incredibly well executed power system, some actual good romance in a shonen, a very unique, unpredictable story with plenty of foreshadowing, extremely well executed world building, good art that makes good use of double page spreads, and great character development. Overall, this is a fantastic read with really great potential and I highly recommend this series. And last but not least, Witch Watch by Kenta Shinohara. Kenta Shinohara, well known for his earlier series Skeet Dance, has developed a lovely and wholesome slice of life romance manga with a dash of supernatural powers. I wasn't especially excited about this manga because I don't particularly appreciate slice of life romance manga in general, but it was a pleasant surprise. Not the greatest of the bunch, but yet not the worst. The series focuses on Nico Wakatsuki, a teenage witch who, after completing her magical training, moves into the house of her childhood friend and longtime crush Morihito Otogi, a human-looking ogre, with the intention of making him her familiar in the hope that this will help them become a couple. As the story progresses, Nico and Morihito find themselves forced to deal with the various supernatural and legendary beings they encounter in their daily lives while also trying to solve all the unpredictable problems Nico's magic causes. The comedy was dull, and it lacked Ginthama's inventiveness and craziness. Sadly, Witch Watch suffers from the same stale and simplistic humor. However, humor is a question of personal taste, and people regularly tell me that my sense of humor is unusual. That is to say, there's a chance you'll like it. Especially if you already like Skeet Dance. The characters and art are as good as you'd expect from a seasoned mangaka. However, the series beginning is a little sluggish and, to be honest, it didn't hold my attention. With that in mind, I'd say Witch Watch is perfect in every way. It's more than passable throughout, but it's not my cup of tea, so I'm not going to finish it. However, you might appreciate it, so give it a try. And that's all there is to it. As you may have guessed, there are some extremely excellent and some quite awful choices in Shonen Jump today, but the good manga take the lead, and we as fans should be very thrilled to see what these new manga will bring us in the future. We can also see that Shonen Jump has been attempting to promote additional genres like as romance into its spectrum, which is pretty good to see. That being said, that's been it. Thank you for watching. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.